My electric bill jumped from $45 to $847 in 1 month. And all that stolen power was charging my HOA neighbor's Tesla. Clarissa had secretly tapped into my late wife's memorial solar system while I was struggling to afford my daughter's college textbooks. Every stolen kilowatt funded her luxury lifestyle with my dead wife's clean energy legacy. At 2 in the morning, the smell of overheating wires and her expensive perfume at the charging port told me this wasn't a mistake, it was theft. What Clarissa didn't know was that I spent 20 years designing spacecraft electrical systems for NASA. And when an engineer documents a crime at max voltage, it doesn't end with an unplugged cable, it ends with police footage. What would you do if your neighbor stole your power to fuel her Tesla? Let me paint you the complete picture here. I'm Russell Hammond, 58 years old, former NASA engineer who spent 30 years designing electrical systems for spacecraft before becoming a freelance engineering consultant. 3 years ago, I lost my wife Sarah to pollution-related asthma. The irony wasn't lost on either of us, considering how passionate she was about clean energy and environmental protection. Sarah had always dreamed of going completely solar, talking for years about reducing our carbon footprint and becoming energy independent. So after her funeral, I channeled my grief into building our 15-kilowatt rooftop solar system as her memorial. Every single panel positioned with NASA precision, angled perfectly for maximum efficiency, generating enough surplus power to cut our monthly electric bills from $200 down to a manageable $45. Now I'm raising our daughter Emily alone, brilliant 22-year-old engineering student at UT Austin with just 2 semesters left before graduation. My consulting income covers the basics like mortgage and groceries, but Emily's $18,000 annual tuition stretches every single dollar we have. Those solar savings weren't just nice to have, they were essential, funding her textbooks, lab fees, and weekend visits home, where she'd help me talk through complex problems while our cat Mr. Newton supervised from his favorite windowsill. I've got this habit that Emily calls NASA syndrome, measuring everything twice, labeling household items with engineering precision, and creating systematic solutions for everyday problems. Coffee mug number 3 gets marked for optimal heat retention. The garage tools are organized by frequency of use, and I maintain detailed spreadsheets for household expenses. Emily always said I was thorough. Sarah used to call it obsessive, but she meant it lovingly, appreciating how my methodical approach kept our family organized and financially stable. Enter Clarissa Thornfield, 51 years old, recently appointed chair of our Homeowner Standards Committee with the enthusiasm of someone who'd finally found her calling in life. Picture every HOA horror story you've ever heard, then add a pristine white Tesla Model S worth more than most people's annual salary and the attitude of someone who married into money but never quite feels secure about her social status. Clarissa had recently divorced her first husband after a messy split and compensated for her insecurity by controlling everyone else's standards, with the dedication of a reformed smoker crusading against cigarettes. She'd walk our neighborhood conducting property inspections, armed with a clipboard, measuring tape, and an attitude that suggested she was doing us all a tremendous favor. The mechanical hum of her Tesla's cooling system ran 24 hours a day in their driveway, mixing with the chemical smell of her spray tan during those scorching Texas summer afternoons. You could hear the distinctive crunch of their perfectly manicured white gravel under her designer heels during her frequent compliance checks. And she had this way of positioning herself so the sunlight caught her oversized diamond wedding ring just right. 3 months ago, on a Tuesday evening while I was grilling dinner for Emily's visit home, Clarissa knocked on my door holding a bright orange extension cord and an official-looking clipboard. Community Green Initiative Pilot Program, she announced with the confidence of someone reading from a rehearsed script, waving some paperwork that looked impressive at first glance. Your solar system overproduces for your household needs. We're testing power sharing protocols to benefit the entire community. Before I could even process what she was proposing or ask to see the actual authorization, She'd plugged her extension cord into my outdoor outlet and started dragging what looked like 100 feet of cable across both our driveways toward her pristine white Tesla. The whole operation took maybe 3 minutes, executed with the efficiency of someone who'd clearly planned this approach carefully. My first month's bill after her pilot program launched jumped from $45 to $156, more than triple the cost. Second month hit $298. This month's bill, $847, which was actually more than my mortgage payment. Clarissa wasn't content with her amateur extension cord setup for very long. Within 2 weeks, she'd upgraded to a permanent Tesla charging station, professionally installed by some contractor she'd hired without bothering to mention it to me. When I discovered this gleaming white charging pedestal bolted directly to my outdoor electrical box, she was ready with a laminated pilot program participation agreement that looked official enough to fool most people. My power bill hitting $847 felt like a physical punch to the gut, more than my monthly mortgage payment. Emily called me from campus that same day, crying because she couldn't afford her organic chemistry textbook, and I had to make the heartbreaking decision to raid my emergency fund. That money had been carefully saved for Emily's graduation gift, maybe a nice laptop for her engineering career. Even Mr. Newton suffered. His premium cat food got downgraded to the grocery store brand, and trust me, he noticed immediately, giving me accusatory looks every time I filled his bowl. Being an engineer, I don't just accept mysterious problems, I investigate them systematically. I installed professional-grade power monitoring equipment on my solar system, the kind NASA uses for critical electrical analysis. The data that came back was absolutely shocking. Clarissa's Tesla consumed 75 kilowatt hours every single night, equivalent to running 4 entire houses simultaneously. Her charging schedule had been perfectly synchronized with my peak solar production hours, stealing power meant for grid feedback credits that should have been reducing my monthly bills. Armed with 6 months of meticulously documented evidence, I approached Clarissa with the kind of engineering precision I'd used on spacecraft systems. Color-coded photographs, detailed power consumption charts, utility bills arranged chronologically, timestamps accurate to the minute. I'd created a comprehensive spreadsheet showing exactly $2,400 in documented theft over 3 months, complete with trend analysis and projected future losses. Clarissa, your Tesla has consumed $2,400 of my electricity over the past 3 months. This arrangement stops immediately, and I need full reimbursement. Russell, you're being overly dramatic about this. It's community sharing for environmental benefit. Show me the official HOA board vote approving this sharing program. The paperwork is still being finalized through proper channels. Your attitude really isn't very neighborly for someone participating in a green initiative. My hands were literally shaking with suppressed rage as I pointed to the monitoring data displayed on my tablet. That artificial chemical smell of her spray tan got noticeably stronger when she was being defensive. Stress sweat mixing with whatever industrial strength tanning solution she used religiously. The sound of her Tesla's cooling fan hummed smugly in the background like some expensive pet demanding constant attention while I filled Mr. Newton's bowl with cheap kibble that crunched disappointingly between my fingers. Here's where my systematic approach paid off in ways Clarissa never anticipated. I decided to review the actual HOA meeting minutes from the past 3 years, requesting official copies through proper channels and cross-referencing every single agenda item. You know what I discovered after hours of careful analysis? No pilot program had ever been discussed at any official meeting, let alone approved by the board. Clarissa had systematically forged the approval documents using photocopied board member signatures and stolen HOA letterhead from her committee position. Let me explain the technical reality of what was happening to my electrical system. Tesla charging at level 2 requires 240 volts and draws 7.7 kilowatts continuously. That's equivalent to running 77 100-watt light bulbs for 8 straight hours every single night. My solar system generates 15 kilowatts at peak production, but Clarissa's evening charging occurred during 0 solar production hours, forcing expensive grid power consumption that destroyed my carefully calculated energy savings. Translation: her Tesla was drinking electricity like a drunk sailor drinks beer at an open bar, and I was getting stuck with the entire tab while she pretended it was some kind of community service. Clarissa flatly refused disconnection and claimed I'd signed a binding participation agreement that gave her permanent access rights. She threatened immediate HOA violation notices if I interfered with what she called approved community infrastructure. That's the exact moment I realized this wasn't a simple neighborly misunderstanding or miscommunication. This was systematic, premeditated fraud executed by someone who'd calculated every angle. Emily's phone call that evening broke my heart completely. "Dad, I had to choose between buying my lab manual and eating dinner this week. When do you think things will get better financially?" I stared out my kitchen window at Clarissa's Tesla gleaming smugly under my stolen solar-powered floodlights. "Soon, sweetheart, very soon." Other neighbors started approaching me quietly, questioning their own mysteriously rising electrical bills. I discovered Mrs. Isla next door had received an official mailbox violation notice the exact same day she'd innocently asked Clarissa about community solar programs. Pattern recognition kicked in immediately. Clarissa's arbitrary aesthetic violations systematically targeted anyone who might investigate her operations too closely. That night, while talking through the problem with Mr. Newton during our usual midnight kitchen conference, I realized Clarissa had made one critical miscalculation. She'd assumed I was just another compliant suburban neighbor who'd accept official-sounding authority without conducting independent verification. When I physically blocked access to my outlet with a lockable electrical box, Clarissa escalated immediately to formal warfare. She filed an official HOA violation notice citing obstruction of approved community infrastructure and willful non-compliance with established green initiatives, demanding $200 in daily fines until I restored cooperative participation in community programs. The certified letter that arrived 3 days later felt like a legal attack designed to crush my family financially. It threatened $1,400 in weekly penalties, potential property lien placement, and forced compliance through community legal action. Emily's spring tuition payment deadline was rapidly approaching with absolutely zero money available in our accounts. My consulting clients started asking uncomfortable questions about my financial troubles after the HOA violation became part of the public record that anyone could access. But Clarissa wasn't finished with her systematic escalation campaign. She hired a licensed electrician to install what she called a bypass connection directly to my main electrical panel, claiming emergency access rights under some fabricated HOA easement agreement that looked surprisingly official. I came home from a client meeting to find complete strangers working on my home's electrical system without any permits, city approval, or my knowledge. I immediately installed a comprehensive security camera system powered by my neighbor's electrical outlet. Mrs. Isla graciously gave permission after I explained the situation, started documenting every single unauthorized access attempt while systematically researching Texas property law, utility regulations, and HOA governance statutes. What I discovered confirmed my engineering instincts. Clarissa's actions constituted multiple criminal violations, including trespassing, utility theft, and fraud. I scheduled a consultation with a property attorney who specialized in HOA disputes, hoping for professional guidance. He confirmed everything I suspected after reviewing my documentation. No HOA can legally authorize utility theft from private property. Forged easement agreements constitute felony fraud, and unpermitted electrical work violates multiple city codes with serious liability implications. Unfortunately, his professional services required a $5,000 retainer that my Tesla-drained budget couldn't handle. I decided to confront Clarissa's electrician directly while he worked on my property. "You're performing electrical work without city permits on a system powered by stolen electricity." The lady who hired me said everything was HOA approved through official channels. That's when Clarissa arrived, right on schedule for maximum dramatic effect. "Russell, you're harassing my licensed contractors who are performing authorized community work." Show me the official city permit for electrical modifications to my private property. HOA approval supersedes individual city requirements for community infrastructure projects. The acrid smell of electrical work mixed with Clarissa's overwhelming perfume while unauthorized drilling sent vibrations through my home's electrical panel. My hands were clenched in controlled fury, holding legal documents printed on expensive letterhead. Impressive presentation, but completely fraudulent content that wouldn't survive professional scrutiny. Here's the mini twist that changed my entire strategic approach. My high-definition security cameras captured Clarissa explicitly directing the electrician to make this installation look completely professional, while discussing specific methods to hide electrical connections from potential city inspectors. She'd actually documented herself knowingly committing systematic fraud while believing she was being clever. My research into unpermitted electrical work revealed critical information about liability and safety. Any electrical modification exceeding 50 amps requires licensed electrician permits in Texas. Tesla charging stations require 60 amp circuits for safe operation. Clarissa was systematically turning my home into a potential fire hazard just to steal power for her luxury vehicle. Translation: she was risking my family's safety and my home's insurability to steal electricity for her expensive toy car that she couldn't afford to operate legally. HOA board members started calling me individually, claiming Clarissa had presented them with deeply concerning evidence of my aggressively non-cooperative behavior toward community initiatives. I realized she was simultaneously conducting a sophisticated character assassination campaign while stealing my electricity and violating my property rights. Emily called from campus with devastating news. "Dad, my tuition payment bounced, and the financial aid office says I have exactly 48 hours to resolve this or lose my enrollment for the semester." I stared at those accumulating $200 daily fine notices spread across my kitchen counter like some kind of financial countdown to disaster. My late-night research sessions revealed the complete truth about Clarissa's desperate situation. County public records showed she owed over $40,000 in back taxes on multiple luxury vehicles, carried several property liens, and faced active foreclosure proceedings. Her theft operation wasn't driven by entitlement or environmental concern. It was pure financial desperation hidden behind a carefully maintained facade of suburban wealth. I discovered that Texas property owners possess absolute legal rights to control electrical access on their private property. Clarissa's claims about emergency access rights had absolutely zero legal foundation under state law. Even better, homeowners can legally disconnect unauthorized electrical connections without providing advance notice under specific circumstances. Mr. Newton started actively avoiding Clarissa's side of our property after her perfume triggered his sensitive allergies. "Even our cat recognizes toxic behavior," I muttered while researching legal precedents at 2 in the morning. Clarissa escalated to outright vandalism when she realized I was building a bulletproof case against her operation. She spray-painted my security cameras with black paint at 3 in the morning, then filed an immediate HOA complaint claiming my surveillance intimidation violated community privacy standards and created a hostile residential environment. She demanded immediate camera removal and threatened $500 in daily penalties for what she termed psychological harassment of neighbors. The HOA board initially sided with her manipulative presentation, ordering me to remove all cameras within 72 hours or face escalating financial penalties. Emily's tuition crisis reached a breaking point when she had to withdraw from her organic chemistry course, losing an entire semester's worth of credits and delaying her graduation timeline. My evidence-gathering capabilities appeared completely neutralized by Clarissa's strategic manipulation of community authority. But Clarissa's greed pushed her to an even more aggressive escalation. She arranged for my solar panels to be inspected for supposed aesthetic violations, claiming my installation didn't match the original architectural approval documents from 2019. She produced professionally falsified paperwork showing completely different panel specifications than what was actually installed on my roof, suggesting I had made unauthorized modifications that violated community standards. I consulted with my electrical engineer friend Jimmy, who confirmed something Clarissa hadn't anticipated. Camera placement on my neighbor's property completely bypassed HOA jurisdiction since the cameras weren't technically on community-controlled land. We installed new hidden surveillance equipment using professional-grade security technology, powered by Mrs. Isla's electrical outlet through an underground cable I buried during a carefully planned midnight installation operation. Here's what my upgraded surveillance system revealed about Clarissa's desperation. Her Tesla charging pattern showed she was charging every single night regardless of actual battery levels or driving needs. This suggested she'd completely lost home charging capability, probably due to electrical problems or unpaid utility bills. My investigation confirmed that her home's main electrical panel had been red tagged by the utility company for serious safety violations. My attorney friend reviewed all my documentation during a pro bono consultation and confirmed I had multiple criminal cases for utility theft, fraud, vandalism, and trespassing. His key insight changed my entire strategic approach. I could legally modify my own electrical systems for any legitimate purpose, including installation of security features designed to protect my property from repeated theft attempts. Clarissa, can you explain why your home's electrical panel is red tagged by the city utility company for safety violations? That's completely private property information that's none of your business. Actually, it's public record accessible through the city inspector's database. Is that why you desperately need access to my electricity? You're harassing me with illegal surveillance, and I'm documenting every single interaction for potential legal action. Excellent. I strongly prefer having everything thoroughly documented with multiple sources of verification. The greasy texture of spray paint residue on my camera lenses mixed with that distinctive chemical burn smell from her amateur paint remover attempts. The underground cable installation left my hands rough from midnight digging in hard Texas clay, while the mechanical clicking sounds of new motion-activated camera systems provided reassuring confirmation of operational status. Here's the mini twist that revealed the scope of Clarissa's family problems. Hidden audio surveillance captured her husband Brad arguing intensely with her about their skyrocketing electrical bills, explicitly threatening divorce proceedings if she didn't permanently fix this expensive mess you created. The recording revealed their marriage was seriously strained by mounting debts. Her schemes were threatening his business reputation, and their lifestyle was completely unsustainable. My systematic financial investigation revealed the complete picture of their impending collapse. Brad's luxury car dealership owed $89,000 in accumulated business taxes. Their home carried multiple liens totaling over $60,000, and their entire lifestyle was financed by maxed-out credit cards with minimum payments they could barely afford. That Tesla lease represented their last remaining symbol of wealth they couldn't actually sustain. Red-tagged electrical panels indicate imminent fire hazards serious enough that utility companies will disconnect power service until professional repairs are completed. The cost of updating 1970s aluminum wiring and overloaded electrical panels typically ranges from $8,000 to $15,000, completely explaining Clarissa's desperate search for alternative power sources to maintain their facade. Translation: she was systematically stealing my electricity because her own house had become too electrically dangerous for safe habitation. Emily's academic situation deteriorated when she dropped from full-time to part-time student status, automatically losing her financial aid eligibility for future semesters. I calculated that my stolen electricity payments would have easily covered her textbooks, laboratory fees, and graduation application costs. The personal stakes for my family had reached an absolute breaking point that demanded immediate resolution. Mrs. Isla quietly revealed that 3 other neighbors had approached her privately about mysterious electrical problems and unexplained utility bill increases. This pattern strongly suggested Clarissa's theft operation extended well beyond my property and affected multiple households throughout our community. I began systematically networking with other potential victims to build a comprehensive coalition. I researched the attractive nuisance legal doctrine and learned that property owners can legally install protective measures against repeat trespassers under specific circumstances. The key legal requirements included appropriate warning signage, proportional protective responses, and reasonable measures designed to prevent further violations rather than cause harm. At 2 a.m, chronic stress-induced insomnia led me to the county property tax website for systematic research. What I discovered there changed absolutely everything about my understanding of Clarissa's motivation and vulnerability. She and Brad owed $89,000 in accumulated back taxes on luxury vehicles, $34,000 in unpaid HOA fees from their previous community, and faced active foreclosure proceedings on their $450,000 home that was mortgaged far beyond its actual market value. Their entire wealthy lifestyle was a completely fabricated facade built on unsustainable debt. Brad's luxury car dealership had quietly filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection 6 months earlier. That Tesla's lease payment was $890 monthly, actually more than my mortgage payment, financed entirely by credit cards they couldn't realistically pay. Stealing electricity wasn't driven by entitlement or environmental concerns. It was pure survival desperation disguised as community participation. The city electrical inspector's report painted an even more devastating picture of their situation. Clarissa's home contained dangerous 1970s aluminum wiring, creating serious fire hazards, a main electrical panel overloaded far beyond safe capacity limits, and multiple code violations requiring approximately $22,000 in professional repairs before the utility company would restore power service. They'd been red tagged for 3 months. My systematic document analysis revealed that Clarissa had systematically forged the HOA president's signature on multiple official documents, fake pilot program approval letters, completely fraudulent easement agreements, and falsified architectural committee decisions. She'd carefully created an elaborate paper trail designed to legitimize her theft operation while providing legal cover for her actions. Cross-referencing utility records with available property tax data revealed the true scope of her organized criminal enterprise. Clarissa was systematically targeting 8 different households with solar installations throughout our community, generating approximately $1,200 in stolen electricity monthly across multiple victims, exactly enough income to cover her Tesla lease payments and minimum credit card obligations. Here's what cut deepest into my engineering soul. Clarissa's specific targeting of my family was methodically calculated rather than random. A widowed engineer with a college-age daughter represented the ideal victim profile, technically sophisticated enough to generate significant excess power, financially stretched enough to avoid expensive legal action, and socially isolated enough to lack strong community support networks for resistance. This discovery completely transformed my psychological position from defensive victim to strategic predator with systematic advantages. Clarissa's desperate financial situation created multiple opportunities for calculated counterattack. Her forged documents provided ironclad criminal evidence. Her obvious technical ignorance about electrical systems created exploitable vulnerabilities that my NASA training could systematically target. I finally understood that Clarissa's theft operation directly threatened Emily's educational future while simultaneously dishonoring Sarah's carefully planned environmental legacy. This wasn't simply a neighborhood dispute or personality conflict. This was calculated economic warfare against my family using stolen resources from my deceased wife's memorial solar installation. Clarissa's complete financial collapse was mathematically inevitable within 6 months, regardless of any actions I might take. Bank foreclosure proceedings had already been officially initiated through the court system. Tesla lease default was imminent based on her payment history. I could either wait passively for natural consequences to unfold, or accelerate the timeline through strategic technical intervention. My NASA engineering background provided systematic problem-solving methodologies that Clarissa couldn't possibly counter with her social manipulation tactics. Her complete reliance on forged authority and intimidation was absolutely useless against properly designed technical solutions. My electrical code knowledge provided a solid legal framework for defensive measures that would be completely bulletproof. My attorney confirmed that modifying my own electrical systems was perfectly legal provided appropriate warning signage was properly installed according to Texas regulations. Clarissa's extensively documented trespassing and theft created strong legal justification for protective measures under the attractive nuisance doctrine that protected property owners from liability. Translation: she was operating a systematic protection racket using fake paperwork and my stolen electricity. Time to demonstrate what happens when you systematically anger an engineer trained in spacecraft systems design. I designed what I privately called my smart security outlet system using readily available electrical components that any homeowner could purchase legally: a programmable smart switch controller, a commercial voltage regulator unit, and a Tesla charging port analyzer for monitoring connection status. The system would provide standard 120-volt household current during normal operation, but could switch remotely to 240-volt industrial voltage when activated. Tesla's sophisticated onboard safety system would automatically lock the charging cable at 240 volts to prevent expensive electrical damage to the vehicle's charging components. I spent 2 intensive weeks researching Tesla charging protocols using my retained NASA database access privileges for technical specifications. Tesla vehicles automatically engage something called high voltage protection mode whenever they detect irregular power supply characteristics. The charging cable physically locks into the charging port and requires professional factory-authorized service technician removal. Estimated professional service cost according to Tesla documentation, $2,800 plus mandatory towing charges for safety compliance. My legal consultation confirmed that my proposed electrical modification was completely legal, provided I installed proper warning signage according to Texas electrical codes. High voltage, authorized use-only signs would meet all state requirements for hazard notification. My system qualified as a legitimate theft deterrent device under property protection statutes, legally equivalent to car alarms, security systems, or motion-activated lighting designed to prevent criminal activity. Shopping expedition to multiple electrical supply stores using my engineering consultant credentials yielded exactly what I needed. Eaton commercial smart switch for $89, professional voltage regulator unit for $156, industrial warning signs for $34, weatherproof lockable electrical enclosure for $67. Total project investment, $346, significantly less than just 1 month of Clarissa's stolen electricity costs. Let me break down the technical explanation in terms anyone can understand. Normal household electrical outlets provide 120 volts, which is perfectly suitable for basic Tesla charging at reduced speeds. Industrial and commercial outlets use 240 volts for heavy machinery, welding equipment, and high-powered commercial applications. Tesla vehicles are programmed to detect voltage irregularities and automatically engage protective lockdown systems that prevent electrical damage to expensive charging components. Once the safety lockdown activates, only factory-authorized technicians with specialized diagnostic tools can safely disconnect the cable without damaging the vehicle's electrical systems. Translation: I was systematically converting my electrical outlet into what I privately called a Tesla flytrap. She could check in anytime, but she definitely wouldn't be checking out without expensive professional assistance. My weekend installation project required approximately 8 hours of methodical work with NASA-level precision and documentation. Disconnect the existing standard outlet, install the smart switch control system, mount appropriate warning signage at eye level, test voltage switching capability under various load conditions, and program remote activation through a smartphone app with backup manual controls. I approached this technical challenge with the same systematic methodology I'd used for spacecraft electrical systems throughout my career. Mrs. Isla graciously provided both alibi coverage and backup power connections for my upgraded monitoring systems. My electrician friend Jimmy validated installation safety and complete code compliance during an unofficial inspection. My attorney friend reviewed all legal protections one final time. Emily helped research Tesla service procedures, costs, and insurance implications during her weekend home visit, approaching the project like the engineering problem it had become. I upgraded my security camera system to professional 4K resolution with infrared night vision capability, ensuring perfect documentation quality for trap activation. Cameras were strategically positioned to capture Tesla license plate information, charging cable connection sequence, and Clarissa's inevitable reaction when she discovered the situation. I added professional audio recording capability for complete evidence documentation that would satisfy any legal requirements. The financial mathematics were absolutely compelling. 6 months of stolen electricity totaled $4,200 in documented theft. Tesla service call for professional locked cable removal, $2,800. Emergency towing charges, $150. Replacement charging cable from Tesla parts department, $800. Clarissa's total cost for one night's attempted theft, $3,750. My trap installation investment, $346. Return on investment calculation, over 1,000%. I practiced calm, factual responses for anticipated confrontations. The warning signs clearly stated high voltage hazard conditions. Your Tesla's safety system functioned exactly as designed by the manufacturer. No emotional gloating, no personal attacks, pure engineering professionalism that would be impossible to criticize or legally challenge. I quietly coordinated with other theft victims about my timeline, ensuring they had alternative charging arrangements for their own electric vehicles if needed. Built a comprehensive coalition of witnesses for trap activation day, with Mrs. Isla coordinating optimal camera angles for documentation purposes. The community support network was solid and committed to seeing justice served systematically. System testing using professional multimeter equipment verified precise voltage switching accuracy under various electrical loads. Smartphone app controls were tested from multiple distances and different locations throughout the house. Warning signs were positioned at appropriate eye level with internationally recognized electrical hazard symbols. Every component performed perfectly under controlled testing conditions. I selected our monthly HOA meeting date for trap activation, ensuring maximum witness presence and community board availability for the inevitable aftermath. Clarissa's predictable charging schedule meant trap activation would occur several hours before the meeting, providing optimal drama timing for maximum community impact. Sensing my growing confidence and obvious community support, Clarissa made a desperate decision to escalate directly to attempted bribery. She approached me privately in my driveway with a thick envelope containing exactly $2,000 in cash, claiming it represented retroactive financial compensation for your generous participation in our successful community pilot program. She demanded I sign an official-looking receipt acknowledging voluntary cooperation with established HOA green energy initiatives to legitimize her systematic theft operation. I immediately recognized that Clarissa's cash offer represented a clear admission of guilt while simultaneously creating powerful legal evidence of her knowing theft. Her obvious desperation was revealed by her willingness to pay substantial money she clearly couldn't afford based on my financial research. Emily's tuition crisis could have been partially resolved by accepting this bribe, creating genuine moral temptation that I had to resist for the sake of long-term justice and community protection. My professionally upgraded camera system captured the entire bribery attempt in crystal clear high-definition audio and video. Clarissa explicitly stated, "This definitely covers all the electricity your Tesla charging thing has been using since we started," while repeatedly discussing her urgent need to keep this arrangement strictly between neighbors without involving outside authorities. Self-incrimination was being documented with courtroom-quality evidence that would be absolutely devastating. I professionally declined her bribery attempt, while carefully ensuring our conversation continued long enough for comprehensive evidence gathering. "Clarissa, I really need to understand exactly what specific electricity usage this cash payment is supposed to cover." I systematically led her through a detailed confession about electricity consumption duration, her knowledge of improper access to my private systems, and her understanding that the arrangement lacked legitimate authorization. My attorney friend immediately confirmed that the recorded bribery attempt significantly strengthened our developing criminal case in multiple important ways. Clarissa's recorded statements legally constituted a clear confession to knowing theft, criminal conspiracy, and attempted obstruction of justice. The evidence quality was absolutely sufficient for successful prosecution without requiring any additional proof from other sources or witnesses. Clarissa immediately filed a formal harassment complaint with the county sheriff's department, claiming my increasingly threatening behavior and systematic intimidation tactics were creating an unsafe residential environment for her family. This represented a classic victim reversal psychological strategy designed to preemptively discredit my credibility before trap activation using manipulative authority figures. The responding sheriff's deputy conducted thorough interviews with me, Mrs. Isla, and several other neighbors who had witnessed our interactions over recent months. My consistently professional demeanor, comprehensive engineering documentation, and strong community support convinced the deputy that Clarissa's complaint represented attempted legal manipulation rather than legitimate safety concerns. The deputy officially warned me about potential escalation, but explicitly acknowledged my absolute right to protect my private property from theft. My systematic research revealed that Clarissa had specifically borrowed those $2,000 from her sister exclusively for this bribery attempt. Bank records accessible through public documents showed multiple payday loan applications had been denied due to poor credit. All credit cards were completely maxed out at their limits, and Tesla lease payments were already 2 months behind schedule. Her financial desperation was reaching absolutely critical levels that would make her increasingly dangerous and unpredictable. Russell, please don't make this situation more complicated than necessary. Just take this money and we can put everything behind us. I need to understand what specific electricity usage this payment is supposed to cover exactly. You obviously know what it covers. The Tesla charging arrangement that's been helping both our families. How long has this charging arrangement been active without my explicit permission? Since March, maybe early April. Just sign this simple receipt so we can move forward positively. The musty smell of old bills mixed with Clarissa's increasingly desperate perfume over application suggested serious stress. The sound of her voice cracking noticeably under psychological pressure while she attempted to maintain artificial confidence was clearly audible on recordings. Envelope corners were visibly bent from nervous handling, creating physical evidence of her psychological distress. The visual contrast between her carefully maintained appearance and obvious financial desperation was absolutely stark. Here's the mini twist that revealed the true scope of family problems. My hidden surveillance equipment captured Brad angrily confronting Clarissa about the missing $2,000 from their emergency fund reserves. The heated argument revealed their marriage was seriously deteriorating under financial pressure. Her schemes were actively threatening his business reputation, and their situation was completely unsustainable long-term. I completed final trap installation during our bribery conversation, strategically using her emotional distraction to complete voltage switching tests and system calibration. All components were armed and ready for immediate activation. Warning signs were properly positioned, cameras were optimized for perfect coverage, and smartphone app functionality was tested under actual operational conditions with multiple backup systems. Clarissa simultaneously began spreading systematic rumors throughout the community about my supposed mental instability and dangerous obsession with surveillance technology, attempting to preemptively discredit my eventual evidence presentation to authorities and neighbors. I carefully documented her defamation campaign through reliable community contacts, adding calculated character assassination to her growing list of criminal violations. Panicking about my systematic evidence collection and growing community support network, Clarissa attempted her nuclear option with characteristic desperation. She filed an official complaint with city code enforcement, falsely claiming my entire solar installation violated current building codes and demanding immediate removal for public safety concerns. She'd managed to bribe her nephew Derek, a junior city inspector with questionable qualifications, to fast-track a predetermined condemnation order that would destroy Sarah's memorial project completely. I received an official notice requiring comprehensive solar system inspection within exactly 48 hours, with potential immediate shutdown if any violations were discovered during the process. Emily's graduation gift fund, $8,000 carefully saved from solar electricity credits over 2 years, was directly threatened by complete system loss. Sarah's environmental memorial project, built with love and precision, faced systematic destruction through corrupt, bureaucratic manipulation. But I'd systematically anticipated this exact escalation pattern based on Clarissa's increasingly desperate behavior. My comprehensive documentation package was already meticulously prepared and organized. Original installation permits with official stamps, electrical safety certificates from licensed professionals, detailed engineering specifications, exceeding code requirements, mandatory safety inspections with passing grades, and current insurance approvals confirming system compliance. Professional engineering validation confirmed my installation actually exceeded current codes by significant safety margins. Derek Hutchinson arrived for his predetermined inspection carrying obvious bias and predetermined violation findings. My systematic preparation immediately exposed his complete inspector incompetence. Derek couldn't read basic electrical schematic diagrams, demonstrated zero understanding of solar energy regulations, and repeatedly quoted incorrect code sections that didn't actually exist in Texas electrical standards. Derek, which specific code section applies to DC disconnect safety requirements for residential solar installations? I believe it's section 12B regarding general electrical safety standards. There's no section 12B in Texas electrical code. Are you familiar with NEC Article 6 and 90 covering solar photovoltaic systems? Look, just fix whatever obviously needs fixing and we'll call it resolved. I'd like to examine your current electrical inspector certification and specialized solar training documentation. I systematically documented Derek's inspection incompetence while secretly recording our entire conversation through multiple hidden devices. The corrupt bribery relationship with Clarissa became obvious when Derek explicitly mentioned Aunt Clarissa's legitimate concerns about my supposedly problematic installation that threatens community safety. The family corruption scheme was now thoroughly documented with admissible evidence. I immediately contacted the head city inspector with comprehensive evidence of systematic corruption. Derek completely lacked proper certification credentials, had falsified official inspection documents, and actively accepted bribes from family members for predetermined results. Derek was suspended pending full investigation within 24 hours. Clarissa's nephew-based corruption scheme collapsed completely and spectacularly. Realizing that official government channels had been compromised and exposed, Clarissa attempted direct physical sabotage as her final desperate measure. She systematically loosened critical electrical connections on my solar panel array during a carefully planned midnight raid, hoping to create actual legitimate safety violations that would justify official inspector condemnation findings from honest professionals. My comprehensive security system captured Clarissa's sabotage attempt in complete high-definition detail, climbing my ladder at exactly 2 a.m., using stolen tools to deliberately disconnect safety wiring, causing dangerous electrical sparks that could easily have started house fires. Criminal trespassing, systematic vandalism, and reckless endangerment were professionally documented with courtroom-quality evidence that would satisfy any prosecutor. Clarissa's amateur sabotage actually created genuine electrical hazards. Loose connections caused dangerous arcing, created serious fire risks throughout my home, and caused expensive system damage requiring immediate professional repair. I discovered the deliberate vandalism during my routine morning inspection, finally realizing that escalation had reached genuinely dangerous levels, threatening both property and human lives in our community. I immediately shut down the entire solar system for safety and contacted the fire department for emergency electrical hazard inspection by qualified professionals. A licensed electrician confirmed $1,200 in repair costs and documented serious fire risks created by Clarissa's completely incompetent sabotage attempts that demonstrated her dangerous technical ignorance. Clarissa, can you explain exactly why your fingerprints are clearly visible on my solar panel disconnect switches? I honestly don't know what you're talking about, Russell. My security cameras recorded your comprehensive 2 a.m. electrical work in complete detail. You're systematically harassing me with illegal surveillance equipment, and I'm documenting every interaction for legal action. Those cameras are legally positioned on my private property to document ongoing crimes committed on my private property. The acrid smell of electrical burning from deliberately damaged connections mixed with her usually overwhelming perfume. Sounds of dangerous sparking wires were clearly captured on professional audio recording equipment. Visual evidence of specific tool marks on vandalized equipment provided physical proof. The texture of Clarissa's distinctive glove fibers left on damaged electrical components created additional forensic evidence for prosecution. Here's the mini twist that exposed her complete technical incompetence. The fire department inspection revealed that Clarissa's sabotage had accidentally fixed one minor code compliance issue while simultaneously creating 3 major safety violations that were far more dangerous than anything she'd intended. Her incompetence and attempted vandalism perfectly demonstrated the technical ignorance that would make my electrical trap absolutely devastating. The fire marshal officially classified Clarissa's sabotage as reckless endangerment with serious potential for mass casualty event due to fire risks in our densely populated residential neighborhood. Clarissa's criminal actions now constituted multiple felony charges, regardless of how our electricity theft situation was ultimately resolved through legal channels. At exactly 11:47 p.m. on the night before our monthly HOA meeting, Clarissa's Tesla approached my outlet for its predictable routine charging session. My security cameras captured her confidently connecting the charging cable to an outlet clearly marked with bright yellow high voltage, authorized use only. Warning signs positioned at eye level. I activated the voltage switch from my bedroom using the smartphone app with steady engineering precision. Tesla's sophisticated charging port immediately locked permanently at 240-volt industrial voltage, according to manufacturer safety protocols. 6 feet of expensive charging cable was now permanently attached to my electrical outlet, stretching across both driveways to Clarissa's completely immobilized luxury vehicle. The Tesla's central diagnostic screen displayed "Service required, do not drive" in bright red letters visible from across the street. Clarissa discovered her predicament at exactly 6 a.m. when attempting to drive to her morning appointment. The Tesla absolutely wouldn't start, the charging cable wouldn't disconnect despite increasingly frantic pulling, and the car's alarm system activated loudly whenever she attempted to force the locked charging port. Neighbors emerged from their homes in robes and pajamas to witness her escalating panic and desperate attempts to free her expensive vehicle. She immediately contacted Tesla roadside assistance with obvious desperation. "My car is somehow stuck to my neighbor's house and I can't get it disconnected." The professional service technician calmly explained that cable lock required factory-authorized removal with specialized diagnostic equipment, estimated cost of $2,800 plus $150 in mandatory towing charges, with a minimum 3-day service timeline for parts availability. Picture this absolutely perfect visual: a pristine white Tesla Model S worth over $60,000 tethered to my modest suburban house, like some ridiculously expensive pet on an elaborate leash. The charging cable stretched completely taut across both driveways, creating a physical barrier that prevented any other vehicle access to either property. HOA meeting attendees arriving at 7 p.m. had to carefully walk around the locked Tesla to enter our community center building. 150 homeowners arrived for our scheduled meeting, with every single person witnessing Clarissa's Tesla permanently attached to my private property in this embarrassing display. Multiple cell phone cameras captured viral-worthy images of a luxury vehicle stuck to a suburban house via its own charging cable. The visual was absolutely perfect for social media documentation. Local news channel 7 had originally planned to cover our meeting for an unrelated story about community solar energy initiatives and HOA governance. The reporter immediately recognized a much better human interest story developing. Tesla owner's expensive car locked to neighbor's house after months-long electricity theft dispute escalates. Our HOA president called the meeting to order with obvious confusion. Our first agenda item appears to be resolving the unusual Tesla situation currently blocking our community center parking area. I stood up with complete engineering calm and professional demeanor. I'd like to address our community about the ongoing problem of unauthorized use of private electrical systems and property theft. I methodically projected 6 months of utility bills on the meeting room screen using my laptop, $45 monthly costs dramatically jumping to $847. Security footage showed accelerated nightly charging sessions in detailed time-lapse format. Professional financial calculations displayed $4,200 in total documented theft. The presentation systematically devastated Clarissa's credibility with mathematical precision. Russell's completely lying about everything. This is systematic harassment. My Tesla is worth more than his entire outdated solar system. Clarissa, please explain to our community why your vehicle is permanently connected to my private property. Fix whatever you deliberately broke. Your dangerous outlet damaged my expensive car. The warning signs clearly stated high voltage hazard conditions according to Texas electrical code requirements. I addressed the community with calm engineering authority. Tesla vehicles are programmed to automatically lock charging cables when detecting irregular voltage levels to prevent expensive electrical damage to vehicle charging components. This is a manufacturer safety feature, not a malfunction. Professional service removal costs approximately $2,800 according to Tesla documentation. Then I played the crystal clear audio recording of Clarissa's attempted bribery. This cash definitely covers all the electricity your Tesla charging thing has been using since March. Just sign this simple receipt acknowledging voluntary cooperation. The community responded with audible gasps at her recorded confession to systematic knowing theft. Sheriff's deputies arrived responding to Clarissa's frantic emergency call about deliberate property destruction and harassment. I calmly presented my comprehensive evidence package: systematic theft documentation, sabotage video footage, bribery audio recordings, and detailed financial analysis. The professional organization and overwhelming evidence immediately impressed law enforcement officers. Clarissa was arrested for multiple felony charges while news cameras captured everything: utility theft, criminal mischief, attempted bribery, and reckless endangerment from her sabotage attempts. She was handcuffed in front of 150 neighbors and a live television news audience documenting community justice. Spontaneous applause erupted throughout the community center as deputies professionally escorted Clarissa to the patrol car. Neighbors who had suffered months of her systematic harassment expressed visible relief and strong support for my methodical approach. Finally, someone had the courage to stand up to her tyranny, became the dominant sentiment echoing through our community. Clarissa faced multiple serious felony charges that would reshape her life permanently. Grand theft for electricity valued over $4,000, criminal mischief from deliberate sabotage damage, attempted bribery of a crime victim, and reckless endangerment threatening community safety. The district attorney called it a textbook case of systematic residential fraud with escalating criminal behavior. Her bond was set at $25,000, an amount her financially collapsed family absolutely couldn't afford, based on their documented bankruptcy situation. The court ordered comprehensive restitution totaling $8,500, $4,200 for systematically stolen electricity, $1,200 for sabotage repair costs, $2,800 for Tesla professional service charges, and $300 for legal fees and court costs. Clarissa's Tesla lease was immediately terminated by the financing company for non-payment and criminal use violations. The vehicle was sold at auction to cover court-ordered damages and accumulated penalties. Clarissa accepted a plea agreement to avoid lengthy trial proceedings, receiving 18 months suspended sentence with strict supervision, 200 hours of community service focused on residential crime prevention education, and 3 years of probation with regular check-ins. Her nephew Derek was immediately fired from his city inspector position and faced separate federal bribery charges. The HOA board voted unanimously to remove Clarissa from all committees permanently and banned her from seeking future leadership positions. The bank completed foreclosure proceedings on Clarissa's home within 60 days of her conviction. Her family relocated to a modest budget apartment across town that matched their actual financial capabilities. Brad's luxury car dealership was forced to liquidate remaining inventory to pay accumulated business debts and tax obligations. Their marriage survived the crisis, but their lifestyle was permanently downgraded to realistic sustainability levels. My systematic documentation approach helped 8 other theft victims throughout our community recover total damages exceeding $12,000 through civil litigation and insurance claims. Our HOA implemented comprehensive transparency policies preventing future board member abuse of authority. Local property values increased 8% due to improved community governance and widespread media coverage of effective resident advocacy. The settlement money completely funded Emily's final semester tuition, plus graduation expenses and emergency reserves for her job search. Emily was so inspired by my systematic problem-solving approach that she changed her major focus to electrical engineering with renewable energy specialization. I was honored at her college graduation ceremony for demonstrating how parents can support student success through principled adversity response. My Tesla trap electrical modification became legendary throughout our region, effectively discouraging other potential utility thieves across multiple communities. Local electricians began referencing the Hammond Protocol when designing comprehensive theft prevention systems for residential solar installations. The story spread through professional networks nationwide. I was formally consulted by the Texas Solar Rights Organization to develop statewide residential theft prevention guidelines and training programs. My engineering expertise was applied to community education initiatives across the region. NASA headquarters even contacted me about consulting on space station power system security protocols. Apparently, my systematic approach to terrestrial problems had impressed their engineering management teams. Emily's graduation ceremony was deliberately scheduled for Sarah's birthday anniversary, a symbolic completion of our family's solar legacy and educational journey. My methodical approach to grief processing and systematic justice demonstrated healthy problem-solving models for Emily's future professional and personal challenges. I donated substantial remaining settlement funds to establish the Sarah Hammond Memorial Solar Education Program, offering free installation workshops and financial assistance for low-income families pursuing renewable energy independence. Emily enthusiastically volunteers as youth coordinator during college breaks, teaching neighborhood children about clean energy technology and standing up to systematic bullying. Our story was featured prominently in Solar Power World magazine as an authoritative residential theft prevention case study with technical recommendations. The video documentation of Tesla trap activation was viewed 3 million times across social media platforms. I became a recognized advocate for homeowner electrical rights throughout Texas and neighboring states. Mr. Newton received his well-deserved premium cat food upgrade and a professionally built scratching post funded by settlement money. Neighbors frequently joke that our cat demonstrated superior character judgment about Clarissa compared to most humans. Animals instinctively recognize predatory behavior patterns. Mrs. Isla became a close family friend, regularly joining Emily and me for weekly dinners and community planning meetings. Neighborhood bonds strengthened significantly through our shared experience of overcoming systematic abuse through collective action. Community block parties resumed for the first time in over 3 years. Now I want to hear your HOA nightmare stories. Drop a comment below sharing your worst neighbor situations. I personally read every single comment and reply with practical engineering advice. Hit that subscribe button for more systematic solutions to everyday problems. And remember, When facing systematic problems, engineer systematic solutions.
Thanks for hanging out with us on HOA Stories, where the HOA Karens meet their match. If this story had you cheering or cringing, go ahead and like the video, drop a comment with your reaction, and hit subscribe so you're ready for the next wild HOA tale.